Voters are deserting the Albanese government, with Peter Dutton closing in as preferred Prime Minister, according to Newspoll in the Oz today. Labor's primary vote fell 1 point to 33%, compared with the Coalition, which gained 2 points to 39%. To analyse this, let's bring in now Bill Shorten's former Chief of Staff, now GXO Strategies Director, Cameron Milner. Cameron, great to see you. Look, it's really the Coalition that's improved here, because Labor's primary was 33% at the last election, which is basically the same result that it is now. So what we're seeing is Peter Dutton really lifting the Coalition's performance. What do you think?
Well, it's Groundhog Day for Labor because their primary hasn't shifted in 2 years, and little wonder because Albanese hasn't shifted in 2 years. But no, Peter Dutton's the winner out of today's Newspoll because he's consolidated the Liberal and Coalition primary vote, and that's critical. It's critical not only in Labor marginal seats, but also against the Teals. So Peter Dutton and Newspoll, very good news for him, not so good news for Albanese because it has gone nowhere in 2 years.
Look, when I interviewed Peter Dutton a week ago on Sunday, he made the point to me that while there hasn't been a government who lost after one term since 1931, he thinks it can be done. He says the momentum's in his direction. The argument is that it's similar to the trends we saw before The Voice. Do you think this is possible, or do you think, most commentators do, that we'll probably end up in a minority government or hung parliament situation?
Well, the best Labor can hope for, with the way Albanese is travelling, is minority government, propped up by entitled Teals and anti-Semitic Greens. I mean, that's the future for the Albanese government on these current polls. But no, I think the situation isn't 1931, it's 2010. I mean, Gillard and Swan took Rudd's majority and smashed it and became minority government in one term. Bill Shorten took Tony Abbott's majority in 2013 and in 2016 came within one seat in the first term Liberal government. So there's a lot more volatility than people expect, and commentators should look at the last 10 years of elections, not the last 100 years, because Peter Dutton may very well make a majority government in as little time as May next year.
And of course, when Bill Shorten took it to within one seat, that was blamed on Mediscare campaign, or that's at least what Malcolm Turnbull blamed it on. Cameron, look, we are seeing...
It was a good campaign.
Well, might have been a good one, but it was a false one. Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong combined. Do you think this is potentially the worst Prime Minister and Foreign Minister in terms of a combination leading Australia that we've ever had?
Well, it's unfortunately a long list, Sharri. We had Sir Robert Menzies selling iron to the Japanese in 1939. We had Fraser with Andrew Peacock, who really was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, as he chased Shirley MacLaine around the globe while on the taxpayer's dime. So we've had some pretty bad combinations. Look, what I will say is it's the weakest combination I've ever seen. Weak on China, weak on anti-Semitism, weak on Islamic extremism, weak on hate preachers at home. I mean, Albanese and Wong keep making the same weak choices. Now, they've got 9 months to earn themselves the worst ever, and let's hope they don't get there, because at the rate they're going, they may well win that prize in the first term.
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with you. Definitely weak when it comes to foreign policy. The Prime Minister today tried to change the topic. We saw the detainee debacle has really plagued him over the past couple of weeks in particular. Today, he said that Peter Dutton was worse than Scott Morrison on climate change. Let's have a look at that.
He is all negativity and no plan. And what we've seen now for 2 years under Peter Dutton is a reluctance to announce any policies. We've seen 3 now budget replies without a single costing.
And this is off the back of Peter Dutton saying once again that he would ditch Labor's 2030 net zero target and instead keep the 2050 net zero target. Peter Dutton told the Weekend Australian that Labor has no hope of achieving the targets. He says there's no sense in signing up to targets you don't have any prospect of achieving. What do you think about this, Cameron? You know, we are in a cost of living crisis. That's the overarching issue affecting most Australians. So do you think Albanese returning to the climate wars will work for him politically?
No, I don't, because cost of living is absolutely the number one issue. Cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And look, tomorrow's state budget brought down by Cameron Dick is all about cost of living. So are all the other state premiers. So was Jim Chalmers' budget that got buried by Albanese's weak leadership on immigration and a range of other matters. So no, look, I think Albanese is trying for the distraction, trying to set up some, faux war that's 10 years old. I don't think it'll work because people are really concerned about putting bread and butter on the table and making sure they can pay the energy bills that are crippling them at the moment.
Yeah, and keeping a roof over their heads. You know, the housing crisis, whether
Absolutely
people
right.
are renting 100%. Or whether they're struggling with their mortgages, it is certainly tough. Cameron Milner, thank you very much for your insights.